Now that we've completed variables and expressions, we can get into learning the conditional statements and flow of control statements that allow us to build real applications. And we're going to start with the most basic one, the if statement. The purpose of the if statement is to direct our logic such that we only perform an action if a condition is true. So the if statement uses a Boolean expression to direct our program down one path or another if it's true or false. If has a partner to it called else. The if statement executes code only if the test expression is true. What do I mean by a test expression? We put it in parentheses. It can be simple or complex. It will always return a Boolean. Our expressions from the last code example where we had and or logic, we can build chains of expressions. As long as the final result is a true or false, we can use it in an if statement. If and else are organized into code blocks. So let's take a look at an example here. Say for example, I have a variable called bank account balance, which has your bank account balance in it. I can say if parenthesis the bank account balance is greater than 1 million, then there's two curly braces. That code block will only be executed if the bank account balance is more than $1 million. Console.WriteLine, you are living large. We can also use the else statement if we want to do something different if the test expression is false. Else is optional. Sometimes we only want to do something if the test expression is true. Sometimes we want to do one thing if it's true and a different thing if it's false. And here's an example of that. I have two variables, x and y. X is set to 15, y is set to 5. If x is greater than y, then write x is greater than y. Else, write that x is less than y. If you only have one statement in your code block, you actually don't have to put the curly braces. But since you're just starting out, I recommend that beginners always put the curly braces no matter what. There's another combination called else if. Sometimes two conditions isn't enough. Sometimes we need to check more than that. So after you write your if statement, you can have as many or none else if conditions that you want. And here's an example of that. Now we have three numbers. X is 15, Y is 5, and Z is 10. And let's say that we were writing a block of code to determine which of those numbers was the biggest. I can start out by saying if X is greater than or equal to Y and X is greater than or equal to Z, then the value of X must be the maximum. Else, if Y is greater than X and Y is greater than Z, then the value of Y must be the biggest value. If neither X or Y are the biggest value, then by default Z must be the biggest value. So in our else statement we don't actually need a test expression because it's the only logical result remaining. Just a quick reminder, don't forget the difference between equality, assignment, and comparison. Equal assigns a value. Double equal, Boolean comparison. Look at this code block here. If bank account balance double equals 0, if the bank account balance is 0, then write out you are broke. The second statement I've said if bank account balance assigned to 0, and that got a red underline on it. It makes no sense to do a comparison of whether you can assign something to 0. This is a common newbie mistake. Always remember to use double equals in your if statements.